Hello everybody, Sprocket Simulations here. Today we are in the wonderful FLYSIMWARE Cessna 414 Chancellor. I've been very excited for this to come out and get onto the marketplace. There's been some beta testing videos out for it, but it is now fully released, and I think it's around $40 to purchase. I'm going to do a full review of this aircraft to see if it is worth that $40 later on, but this is what I would consider the base version, which is the GNS 530. It has a very rudimentary autopilot system in there. It's a little tricky to, I guess, use the altitude mode is the best way to describe the complexity of it. There's a couple different views and actions that you need to take in order to make it descend and ascend properly. So today we're going to make that even harder on ourselves by flying from Leesburg International in Northern Virginia, and we're going to head into Reagan International, or DCA, which is basically as close as you can get to Washington, D.C. Now, we're going to be flying into runway 19, which is an RNAV approach, but it's an RNAV RNP. RNP, for lack of a better description, is basically you better be on top of your game for this approach. In this aircraft, because of the type of aviation equipment that we have, there is no LNAV. There's not going to be a glide slope that we can capture on this because it is such a unique approach. Basically, it has a ton of waypoints with a ton of altitude assignments. So I chose this to show how you change altitude quickly and how you're able to fly something like this. I'm going to say one of the most complicated approaches as far as waypoints and altitude holds. It's not difficult in the sense of, you know, you're landing on a short field on a, 6-degree slope in the bush, but you're in restricted airspace in one of the most protected airspaces in the world, and you have to stay on point. So with that being said, let's jump into the cockpit, and I'm going to go quickly over the panels for the autopilot. So coming down here, you have your main mode selector, which is going to have things like your flight director, heading, altitude, hold, nav, and then the rest of them, you have your back course here, but the rest of them are just going to be illuminations for what is currently on. Over here you have your altitude selector. So I love this thing because it's like a little ticker tape. It reminds me of like those little like hand counters where it was like a little chrome thing and you would just click it and it would count. So our first waypoint on the approach is 3,000 feet. So I'm just going to go ahead and set 3,000 feet here. Now, if you notice, there's nothing on the mode selector to tell the aircraft how to get to 3,000 feet. There's no vertical speed, there's no flight level change, there's nothing on here. So what do? Well, if we come down here, this is also part of the autopilot, which is where you turn the autopilot on, the yaw dampener on, and then you have your pitch wheel here. Your pitch wheel is basically going to set your pitch on here. I don't know if it's tying into your vertical speed or not. It's fairly bouncy as far as its accuracy, so that leads me to believe it might be pitch. But I haven't seen another aircraft have this type of pitch wheel actually respond to pitch. It always ties into vertical speed. So what we want to do is come back up here, and we want to arm 3,000 feet. So you can see this little yellow light came on, and that's saying that we have armed 3,000 feet. We do not want to click the Alt button because that is just going to hold us at whatever altitude we're currently at. It's just a hold button. It is not a climb descent to this. What we are going to do though is go ahead and we're going to change our CDI over to make sure it's on GPS, because we do have an RNAV approach and we have a GPS course loaded in. I am going to clear out some of the waypoints so that way we have a little bit clearer screen to look at. So I'm just going to go ahead and arm the nav. We have our altitude armed, and that's really all we have to do to get in our sort of like basic takeoff with autopilot set. We've got a little gusty wind coming out of sort of the southwest here. We're on runway 17, and we'll just go ahead and get into the air. I'm going to go ahead and release the parking brake. We are going to be using ATC for this because they are the ones that give us the altitude assignments as we make our descent into Washington, D.C. So for takeoff on this, I do like to put that power in relatively slow. If you just push that throttle all the way up, it tends to it just doesn't sound good for the engine, and it's a little bit awkward of keeping it on the center line. So we're just going to gradually increase the power. So we're out of the green and going up to a full 40 inches of manifold pressure. We are in the red as far as our RPMs. Then we can slowly start to rotate here. There's a nose coming up, and we have a nice climb. I like to come up to the nose view after I've taken off to make sure I'm getting past the runway. We can go ahead and bring our gear up. So we're gonna climb up to about 900 feet. There we go. We're gonna come down and we're gonna turn autopilot on. That's going to get us on our nav. It's holding our current pitch to get us to 3,000. Now if we come back down, you watch, if I turn pitch down, it's dropping us down.
Departure Cessna November Sierra Papa Romeo Kilo Tango.
So that's how that works. Okay, so if we want to start going up, we rotate it down. For nose up and down for nose down, and I'm looking at my vertical speed. Oh, I need to turn on my 6. I didn't hear what she said here. 6, 5, 6, 7, 5, 7. We just need to turn it on. It'll flash and now we're good. So that beep that we just heard was actually that we have an altitude alert, meaning that we were 1,000 feet until our assigned armed altitude. We're already lined up on our course. Our first waypoint is stand. We'll get clearance onto the RNAV once we get close to stand. I'm going to go ahead, and we're fully pegged at the moment. I'm already going to get us set kind of into our cruise mode, which is going to be about 28 inches of manifold pressure, and I'm going to drop us down to about 2,400 RPMs. That'll get us sort of a nice, easy cruise. Now I know the next waypoint that we need to hit so we're going from stand. Fergie is the first point of the approach. The one after that is at 2,600 feet. So I can go ahead and actually set 2,600 feet and have it armed and prepared. So you can see 2,600 feet. It stayed armed. Our altitude has not changed. We're not dropping. We're still at 3,000 feet, and we're just set for the next altitude. Once we get that assignment to go down to 2,600 feet, we will need to click off altitude hold and set our pitch to descend down to 2,600 feet. From there, I know our next our next altitude is going to be 1,700. So I'll make this 1,700 and repeat that process. So it's just a little bit of moving around to make it happen. So we're going to be hitting stand here in a minute, but I figured we'd come out to the outside of the plane real quick here and have a little, there we go. So there we go. There's our clearance on to the approach. So we'll acknowledge that.
Keep speed not above 210.
And you can see now, we probably have a little message here saying approach is not active, right? So we need to go ahead and go procedures, activate approach, and you can see now we're hitting stand. It's going to go bing, and it's going to go direct to Fergie, which is what we just got clearance for. So we'll fly along here for a little bit. We've got about, I don't know, 2.5 minutes until we get there, and we'll just do a little bit of sightseeing as we fly through wonderful Northern Virginia towards DC. There we have our first altitude. So we're going to go ahead and drop down. We're going to acknowledge that. We're going to turn off altitude hold, and then we're going to pitch down. And it's only going down 400 feet, so you're going to see that this is going to arm very quickly as far as altitude hold. So there you go. I'm already going to start slowing down here because it is a sort of fast-acting approach. So our next waypoint is Derrick, which I know is at 1,700, which you can get all this information from like Sky Vector and other places to see the approach charts. Now, flaps for this, you can engage at 171 for the first notch, and gear can come down at 177. So I just did the first notch of flaps. I'm going to go ahead and drop our gear. I'm going to bring our RPMs fully in. Mixture is full forward as well. So as soon as we get the next command here, did I forget to call over? I did. Let's. I'm gonna go ahead. We missed that one command, so. Cessna November, Sierra Papa Romeo Kilo, Tango Potomac approach altimeter 29.902. Continue to GRYZ as planned. So we're just going to descend on down to 1,700 here, which is, I know we didn't get the assignment, but that's because I was not on top of things and talking to you guys, but we'll go ahead and get on down to 1,700. This will turn green in a second. So they want us to go down now to 1,500. We're go ahead and acknowledge that.
Descend and maintain
Turn off altitude
1,500
mode.
feet. Cessna Romeo Kilo Tango.
And we can just barely get in there to rotate that down. It's only another little bit here. So if we zoom in on our thing, we've got 25. Now they're saying 1,200. Down, down, down. Go ahead and turn off altitude mode. And then get our nose down to start that descent. I'll bring a little throttle back in. Yep, I did. Sorry. So this is why something like this, having an autopilot would be like key. There's so much going on. As you can see, we've got, this is Roslyn and Arlington at the Washington Monument there. I thought I did.
Descend and maintain 1,200 feet. Cessna Romeo Kilo Tango.
She should give us another one right now, which is probably down to 700, I think. Have a quick look outside. 1,000 feet. We'll go ahead and just do our 700 by the time we get down to that. We will need to go to 700. Acknowledge that.
Descend and maintain 1,000 feet. Cessna Romeo Kilo Tango.
I'll bring a little throttle back in. So here's the airport. And you can see that's not the runway we need to land on. The runway is 19 and going that way.
Cessna Romeo Kilo Tango descend and maintain 500 feet.
Now we're going down to 500. And then alt mode off. And then nose down. We'll acknowledge that.
Descend and maintain 500 feet. Cessna Romeo Kilo Tango.
Draw that throttle back a little bit. Get a quick view of
Cessna Romeo
them all.
Kilo Tango descend and maintain 300 feet.
There's 300 feet, so let's come back in. Like I said, you don't get much time here. So we come down to 300, alt off, pitch down, come back up. I'm gonna go flaps.
Cessna Romeo Kilo Tango, did you copy?
I did. I'm just paying attention to everything. Look at the train coming across the bridge. It's pretty cool.
Descend and maintain 300 feet. Cessna Romeo Kilo Tango.
There's the Washington Monument. We're gonna make our turn.
Romeo Kilo Tango, you are 2 miles north.
So now this is where they think we're 2 miles from that.
Tower on 119.1 when inbound.
So this is where ATC screws up.
Tower on 119.1 Cessna Romeo Kilo Tango.
If I contact them now, you'll see that they say we weren't cleared.
Washington Tower, Cessna November.
I'm gonna go ahead and
Sierra
disengage
Papa Romeo
autopilot.
Kilo Tango, 2 miles north inbound RNAV runway 19er approach.
A little high.
Cessna November, Sierra Papa Romeo Kilo Tango Washington Tower. Altimeter 29.9, wind 200 at 20. Cleared on a runway 19.
So you can see they gave us the clearance, but
Cleared RNAV runway 19er approach. Cessna Romeo Kilo Tango.
once we land, they're gonna say we weren't cleared. They thought we were 2 miles away. They just came to idle. A nice, easy landing here. Boom.
Cessna Romeo Kilo Tango, you are not cleared
Yeah.
to land.
ATC just doesn't quite work all that well, which I'm sure everybody is used to. So we're going to come to the outside view. We are going to bring up our flaps. Apply our brakes here.
Cessna Romeo Kilo Tango, you are not cleared to land.
Yes, we were.
Clear the runway.
I heard you and I have it on tape. So there we are.
Cessna Romeo Kilo Tango, contact ground on 121.
So you can see how it's very capable. This is a
Going to 121.7 Cessna Romeo Kilo
worst
Tango.
case scenario, right? Like that approach is full of assignments, full of staying on course and jumping around from views, turning switches and everything. And like I said, ideally you'd have a co-pilot to do that. But I wanted to do something a little bit more difficult like that, just to demonstrate how you can use this autopilot. And if you are getting frustrated with the altitude hold, the pitch, how that all functions, how it works together, this should clear up any confusion on what the aircraft needs as far as inputs to basically what you're telling it to do. So if you have any questions, comments, please leave them down below. I do go through and read them and respond. And then I would appreciate it if you could like and subscribe if you enjoyed this video. And until next time, I wish you happy flights with silky smooth landings. Thanks again. Have a great day.